May 1996. Did you catch me looking at my little notebook to make sure I was talking about the right month? May 1996. Still framing pictures at Illyria Arts. And that's pretty much all I remember from May of 1996. But fortunately, I have a list of the books that I read that month and year. And we're going to go over them right now because that's what these videos are all about. Let's jump in. Book number one, Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson. This is, I don't know if this was his first novel or just his breakout, but it's a cyberpunk book. The main character's name is Hiro, Hiro. He's a pizza delivery dude in this not very good future world, and he spends his downtime in a virtual world. And there's a drug called Snow Crash that is in the virtual world. It messes up your avatar. It turns your real body into a quivering mess. And Hiro is trying to stop it, trying to figure out what's going on. So, pretty popular book, I believe, as I said, at least Neil Stephenson's breakout novel. It was recommended to me by a friend. I thought it was fine. It's a real thick, big, thick, heavy book. And I don't believe I've ever read any other Neil Stephenson, so it was okay to me. Not enough that I was rushing out to read more of his stuff. Next up, we have Sliders by Brad Lineweaver. And this is a novelization of the first episode of the TV series Sliders. And for those of you who may not remember what that was, back in at least 96, before everybody was going crazy for multiverses, this was a TV show about a multiverse. It had Jerry O'Connell and is it John Rhys Davies? The guy from Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indy's friend, and some other people that I don't remember off the top of my head. But basically, the adult, the older character, I want to say John Rhys Davies, if that's him, creates this gateway that will take people to alternate Earths. And he's got a control thing so he can, you can jump to an alternate Earth and then jump back to your own Earth. But of course, this is a TV series, and so that control thing gets broken, and they can't control where they're going to go. So it's the hopefully John Rhys Davies character, Jerry O'Connell, and then there's a woman and another guy who kind of get all sucked along. And so all they know when they go to a different world is when and where the portal will open up again, but they don't know where it's going to take them. So they're trying to find their way back to their own Earth. And each week they're on a different Earth. And something is different about it. There's one, spoilers, there's one episode where they get to the world. It seems like their world, but there's this lottery, and you can enter as many times as you want, and it's free, and the winner gets millions of dollars, all this crazy stuff. But of course, after they enter, they find out that you get all this crazy stuff for 24 hours, and then you're sacrificed. Something like that. And the worlds aren't all that. There's one, in the pilot episode, they go to a few different worlds. And I think there's one where the Nazis won the war, World War II. The war. I mean, we should all know which war I'm talking about, but let's be specific. World War II. And they jump to one or two different worlds before the thing gets broken. But anyway, this is, as I said, this is just a novelization of the pilot. I really enjoyed the show. Kind of went off the rails in the last season or so, where they brought in aliens that were trying to conquer all of the different parts of the multiverse. But, and this show didn't invent the multiverse idea, but it was certainly ahead of its time, considering how huge and popular an idea it is at the moment. At least at the moment of this recording. But let's move on. Book number 3 of May 1996 was Star Wars X-Wing Rogue Squadron by Michael A. Stackpole. This is the first book in the Star Wars X-Wing series, and it is about Rogue Squadron. Ha! What a surprise. Which is there? It's like the elite X-Wing pilots. They're the Navy SEALs, the SAS of X-Wing pilots. They're going in. They do covert missions. They do suicide missions. Wedge Antilles puts this squad together, and in this first book, they're going up against, I don't remember what, something, but it seems like it's going to be a suicide run. All the pilots might not make it back. And I like these books a lot. X-Wings are my favorite spaceship, sci-fi spaceship. Very closely followed by the Viper from the original Battlestar Galactica, but that's neither here nor there. I actually just got, as of this recording, my birthday is tomorrow, and I got an early birthday present, which is a Lego X-Wing kit. One of the bigger ones. Not the super expensive ones, but a good sized. Anyway, one of the things I liked about this series, even though it does have occasionally main characters from the movies, most of the characters are original or very ancillary characters from other sources, and so you never know who's going to live, who's going to die. I always felt when reading any other Star Wars book where Luke, Leia, Han, any of those characters are the main characters, that you can be pretty sure, I can think of one big exception, but pretty sure that they're going to survive. But in this, you don't know. You come to like these characters, and they could be dead by the end of the story. So, Star Wars X-Wing Rogue Squadron. I don't have it anymore because I gave my Star Wars books to my nephew, because I'm that kind of generous person. I will probably buy them again at some point. Now they're under the Legends banner, so they're readily available. Next up, we have a book that I have marked fiction and nonfiction, and that is Edgeworks 1 by Harlan Ellison. So this was the first in a planned 20-volume series from White Wolf Publishing. They were going to reprint all of Harlan Ellison's work. I don't believe they came close, but this was the first volume, and it's actually made up of 2 books. Now I have to check my notes. Over the Edge, which is all a bunch of short stories, and An Edge in My Voice, which is a bunch of essays. Harlan Ellison, kind of controversial figure, definitely known as a curmudgeon, very angry person, but also very, some controversial stuff. Possibly misogynistic. I don't want to besmirch his name in ways that it shouldn't be. There are probably ways it should be. But I think there were some sexual allegations, perhaps. He didn't always act on his best behavior. A lot of people praise him for his bluntness. But sometimes he went too far, I think. But anyway, fantastic writer. And so, going back, reading the short stories, reading his essays, he was an amazing writer, and this is a great place to start if you're interested in reading his stuff. And at this point, he's passed away, so there's no problem spending money on his books because it's not going to him. You're not supporting him. But at least at this time, I hadn't heard any of this stuff. Didn't have the internet or anything. I just knew that I knew who Harlan Ellison was, and some of the things he'd written. The original screenplay for one of the most popular episodes of Star Trek, the original series, City on the Edge of Forever. Um, so anyway, yeah, good book. It's a good book. We'll move on to something different. McNally's Puzzle by Lawrence Sanders. This is the 6th book in the McNally Mystery series. Takes place down in Florida, in the rich, super rich area of Florida. I want to say Miami Beach. But anyway, McNally is sort of a ne'er-do-well who is supposed to be like a security guy-ish. His father's making him do this kind of stuff. But anyway, he's hired by this wealthy owner of a bird shop, to investigate death threats and things. But apparently he doesn't do a very good job because his client ends up dead. And a couple of clerks from the bird store are either killed or kidnapped. Like one's killed, one's kidnapped, something. I don't know. But anyway, these are fun, lighthearted, as much as something with murder in it can be lighthearted. Fun, lighthearted mysteries. Then we have Wildside by Stephen Gould. Now, we're going to see his name next month on the list, next week, for people watching this video. For something that he's more well known for, if I could even say he's well known, I don't know. But Wildside is about this teenage boy who he and his friends have this way that they're going to become, they're hoping to become incredibly rich. And I think we get, I don't want to spoil it. It's a good pulpy sci-fi adventure that I would recommend. But basically, and I don't think this is spoiling too much because I think it's all pretty much up front. In the back of this barn that's built into a hillside. There's a door that opens up. We're back to like multiverse stuff. It opens up and leads to an Earth where humans have never existed. There's still saber-toothed tigers and stuff like that. And so their plan is to look at historical records, I guess, and find where, like, the biggest gold strikes, the biggest diamond mines, things like that. Find where these things are and go into this pristine world and see if they can't get gold, get the diamond, get whatever, natural things, bring them back, and then they'll be rich. But of course, it's a wild, wild world that they're going to. But as I said, it's a lot of fun. Another book that I will if I come across it at the used bookstore, I'll pick it up. It was enjoyable. Then we have a book. I have no idea why I read this. I don't know if it was recommended to me, if I stumbled across it at the library. But it's called The Shaman Bulldog by Ronaldo Fisher and Michelle St. George, or with Michelle St. George. And it is, see, I don't have it marked as nonfiction, but it sounds like it's nonfiction because it's the story of Fisher, apparently, and this bulldog that he gets, and it's just sort of the story of their relationship, for lack of a better word, as the dog. I guess he got it when it was young because it grows, and at first they're butting heads, but then he comes to love the dog comes to love him, and as Fisher goes through all these rocky points in his life, including the dissolution of his marriage, I believe, the bulldog is there, and he basically he learns about life and how to appreciate everything, and it's sort of goes on a spiritual journey through his relationship with this bulldog. I don't remember how I feel about it, how I felt about it when I read it. I don't remember why I read it, but Read it, I did. The Shaman Bulldog. Only 2 more books. Another nonfiction, and this is The Baby Train by Jan Harold Brunvand, or however you say the name, Jan Harold Brunvand. I think the full title, which for some reason I didn't write down, is The Baby Train and Other Lusty Tales of something. But it's another urban legends book. And I didn't realize, until I looked this up, is that Mr. Brunvand had a syndicated column called Urban Legends. And so some of his books, like this one, are basically a collection of those columns where, of course, in each one he tells you about a specific urban legend. And this book in particular focuses not completely, but a lot, I think not completely, but a lot on some of the more sexual urban legends. It does mention the Baby Train is the story of a town where a train comes through every morning at, let's say, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever, early in the morning, wakes everybody in the town up. And so, they have to get up in an hour, half an hour for work anyway. So instead of going back to bed, they have sex. And then, there's 100 babies born on the same day. Because the train wakes everybody up at the same time and they all have sex, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I love the urban legends stuff. Another great urban legends book. And finally, the only book I still have, The Incredible Hulk, Stalker from the Stars, by Len Wein, possibly how you say it, or Len Wayne, I don't know. Marv Wolfman and Joseph Silva, with an introduction by Stan Lee. It is The Incredible Hulk in his first full-length novel. This is the first novel in the series of Marvel novels from the late 70s. We're going to look... 78. I was going to say 79. Because I think the whole series came out in 78/79. I don't know if it crept into the 80s or not. But anyway, cool cover. And it's just this alien, this tentacled alien, comes down from space, crashes in North Dakota, controlling people's minds, going to take over the world. The Hulk's going to stop him. And this is the not completely bestial Hulk, not completely smart Hulk. It's not Professor Hulk. But it's got General Thunderbolt Ross. It's got Rick Jones. And it's just a fun little Hulk story. And that's it. That's how I capped off May of 1996. Excuse me. Yeah, I didn't think ahead. I don't have a specific question, so fall back on the generic that applies to every one of these videos. Do any of these books catch your eye? What of the things I listed would you be interested in reading? Or have you ever read any of these? I think eventually we're going to start getting into stuff that people have read. I know there's been some anyway, Stephen King and that type. But I think we'll get to some things. Eventually we're going to really get into the meat of what other people have read. But of these things, what catches your eye? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. If you care to follow me on other social media, I am currently still on Twitter. I have not started a Hive account. My Twitter is @Ronin5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is Eric Smith 5757. That's Eric with a K. ERIKSMITH 5757. That's all I have for you this week. So until next week, read more books.